What if I told you that a moment of pure bliss you think lasts only a few seconds is actually much, much longer? The science behind it might surprise you.
Please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Check the description for trusted sponsors and ways to support the show. Hello and welcome back to the show. We've got a truly fascinating topic for you today.
It's a topic that a lot of people probably have questions about, but maybe don't want to ask. We're talking about the length of orgasms, specifically the female orgasm. You might think it's just a fleeting moment, but science tells us something a little different.
I know it sounds almost too specific to be a real field of study, but it is. Today, we're going to dive into the research and what it reveals about the duration of orgasms and what factors can influence them.
So, where do we even begin with something like this? How do scientists actually study an orgasm? It's not like they're just sitting there with a stopwatch, are they?
Well, not exactly. In the lab, scientists use a variety of tracking devices to monitor a variety of physiological responses that occur during orgasm. They're looking at things like pelvic floor contractions, heart rate, and blood pressure.
That makes sense. So it's all about the data, not just what someone says they're experiencing.
Exactly. During orgasm, they'll expect to see rhythmic pelvic floor muscle contractions that occur at about a 0.8-second interval. It's a very precise, measurable rhythm. You also see a person's heart rate go up, sometimes as high as 110 to 180 beats per minute, and their blood pressure will increase as well. And while they're not actually watching you, at least not in modern science, if you were to observe people having orgasms, you would see other physical changes like pupil dilation, muscle tension, and even flushing of the skin.
It's incredible how the body has such a predictable full-body response to this. It really shows how powerful the experience is.
It really does. Scientists can precisely identify when an orgasm begins when they see that first rhythmic contraction and the sudden spike in heart rate. And they know when it ends because these measurements tend to go away or return to their baseline level. And this allows us to really get a very accurate picture of how long an orgasm lasts. But here's the interesting part. When researchers look at these measurements of how long orgasms last, they compare that to what people actually think in terms of how long their orgasm lasts. And they see a real difference. In fact, women tend to underestimate how long their orgasms last by quite a bit.
Wait, really? So they think it's shorter than it actually is? That's fascinating. What did they find out about that?
Well, in one study from 1985, researchers recruited 28 healthy, sexually active young women. Each participant was asked to stimulate herself until she reached orgasm. To figure out what was happening, researchers used a special heated oxygen electrode inserted into the vaginal wall that essentially measured changes in blood flow.
And what did they find?
Well, the average length of an orgasm was about 20 seconds long, and it ranged anywhere from 10 seconds to up to a full minute. But here's the most interesting part. When women were asked to estimate how long their orgasm lasted, they almost always guessed much shorter. On average, they guessed about 12 seconds. In fact, 86% of women underestimated how long their orgasm lasted, even when they were asked just minutes after the event occurred.
That's an amazing difference. Almost a full 50% underestimation. You'd think right after it happened, you'd have a pretty good idea of how long it was.
You really would, wouldn't you? It just goes to show how much our perception of time can be altered when we're in the middle of a powerful experience. They also found there was no significant relationship between the strength of the orgasm and the duration of the orgasm. The researchers also found that on average, it took these women about 7.8 minutes to reach orgasm through self-stimulation in the lab. Other studies have found something similar, that the average female orgasm lasts anywhere from 20 to 30 seconds.
So that's the average, but there's a wide range, right?
Absolutely. There's huge variability in the individual experience. Research has found that shorter orgasms that last anywhere from 3 to 15 seconds are pretty common, but at the same time, longer orgasms lasting anywhere from 20 seconds to almost 2 minutes also occur pretty frequently. In fact, 40 to 48% of women report having orgasms that last anywhere from 30 to 60 seconds or even longer.
You know, that makes a lot of sense. When you're having an orgasm, you're not exactly sitting there counting how long it's lasting. You're just sort of like, wow, that's longer than usual, or wow, that felt very intense. You're really sort of distorted in time. You're just in the moment, which is exactly what an orgasm should be.
I love that. The idea that time becomes irrelevant. That's a great sign that you're truly present and in the moment. Interestingly, some studies also looked at age in relation to how long orgasms lasted. In one study, they found that women between the ages of 31 and 40 tended to have the longest orgasms, averaging around 30 seconds. So it doesn't mean that if you're younger, you're going to have longer orgasms.
That's a big deal. Why do you think that is?
This may be because women in their 30s tend to know their bodies a little better than women who are younger, and they tend to know what they like to achieve orgasm because they've generally had more practice, and they tend to have less body image issues, which can let them be in the moment and be more present when they're self-stimulating or with a partner.
That's a really good point. Confidence and self-awareness play a huge role in all aspects of life, and it's no different here. But the real take-home is that longer doesn't necessarily mean better.
I agree 100%. What matters at the end of the day is the quality and the satisfaction you get from having the orgasm. And that's not specific to the duration. A lot of women will say that shorter, more intense orgasms can be just as satisfying as longer ones.
So, what factors might actually influence how long the orgasm lasts?
Well, first and foremost is arousal level. The more aroused a female is, the more likely she's going to have a longer and more intense orgasm. So, as we always say, take your time, build arousal, enjoy foreplay, and extend stimulation so that you can build arousal to a higher level before climax for both you and your partner. The type of stimulation may also play a role. So, there are different forms of stimulation: clitoral, vaginal, and combined, and women will report that they have different orgasmic responses depending on how they're stimulated. Ultimately, combining stimulation, so both vaginal and clitoral, can actually lead to even more intense and stronger orgasms.
I have heard that before. The combination of different types of touch and sensation can be a powerful thing.
It really is. The other thing that can affect orgasm is hormones. We know that during the menstrual cycle, things change, and sometimes women can be more responsive or receptive to sexual stimulation. Particularly, women tend to report more intense and longer orgasms during ovulation when their estrogen levels are at their highest.
That's a fascinating link. It just shows how interconnected our bodies are and how much is going on beneath the surface.
And of course, psychological factors matter too, right? If you're stressed or anxious or distracted, you're not going to have as intense of an orgasm and probably a shorter one too. So, generally, working to cultivate desire, reduce stress, and really enjoy the time you're with your partner to be present and connected, that can really enhance your experience and your partner's experience.
And then there's the pelvic floor. I know they talk about this a lot.
They do. The pelvic floor is a bowl of muscles that sits underneath all your pelvic organs. These muscles are the ones that contract rhythmically at those 0.8-second cycles. So when you have strong pelvic floor muscles, they will contract more strongly, making the orgasm more intense. When they are weak, they might not contract quite as strongly, making your orgasm less intense. So if you have a normal functioning pelvic floor, doing pelvic floor strengthening exercises like Kegel exercises can be really helpful in improving your orgasm quality.
I feel like a lot of people don't think of those muscles as being so important for this.
They're absolutely critical. And then there are medications that can affect sexual function, including orgasm. Antidepressants, like SSRIs, have been shown to affect orgasm in a variety of different ways. Sometimes it can make it more difficult to get an orgasm, or it can sort of change how intense they are and how long they last. And lastly, age. As anyone ages, women, men, anyone, their nerve endings age too. And so their sensation can decrease. And over time, that can mean that it makes it more difficult to achieve longer and more intense orgasms. But the healthier you are overall, the healthier your nerves are going to be, and the less decrease in sensation you'll see.
So, what's the bottom line here? What's the main takeaway for our listeners?
The bottom line is that the average female orgasm is not short. It lasts anywhere from 20 to 30 seconds, but there's a huge amount of individual variation. Women tend to think their orgasms are shorter than they really are, and things like arousal, psychological state, and pelvic floor strength can affect your ability to have longer or more intense orgasms.
It's about quality over quantity, and it's a testament to the power of the human body and mind.
I couldn't agree more. Thanks for tuning in to the Wellness Lab Digest. If this episode inspired you, here are 3 quick ways to support the show. 1. Subscribe so you never miss fresh, body-loving wellness insights. 2. Share this episode with someone who needs it today. 3. Comment below and tell us what topics you'd love to hear next. Want to do even more? Check the video description for ways to support the show. Stay curious, stay well, and we'll see you in the next episode.